Continuing. Thou mighty man of valor. Gideon did not believe he was a warrior. The angel of the Lord, however, saw him differently. The angel oak tree located near Charleston, South Carolina is over 1,400 years old and nearly 67 feet tall, but it began as an acorn. To grow a mighty oak, the initial seed must be flawless. It is then hibernated in a harsh but controlled refrigerated environment. Next, it is buried, allowing the outer shell to fall away and the inner life to sprout. Then it is transplanted while it is protected against predators by a wire surround. As the young tree strengthens, support is tapered off, and the oak must find strength on its own by reaching for light and digging for water. Indeed, YAHAWAH can see an oak where we see only an acorn. The seed within the believers is Hamashiach himself, and with much care he will grow in us and ultimately destroy his enemies. And it's a precept to that, Romans 8, verse 37. In thy might I sent thee. In 2014, Ambassador Matthew H. Tuller was appointed to serve in Yemen. There, the local government has fallen. Insurgents chant, "Death to America." Now, if that ain't the spirit, wow. Al-Qaeda has put a price on Tuller's head, which is $160,000 in gold, and a bomb meant for Tuller was defused. His job was justifiably considered the most dangerous in the world. YAHAWAH was truly an ambassador sent on the most dangerous assignment in the universe. His strength, however, was in knowing that his father had sent him. It was a worthy cause. His father would back him, and truth would prevail. This is the key to ambassadorship. We are sent. We are on an assignment. We are not alone. We are backed by heaven, and we win. Wow, it's freezing out here. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I'm trying to do this lesson, you know, and I'm doing it outside. And, you know, although it looks nice out here and it's warmer than what it normally is, you know, it's actually, it's kind of freezing out here. So bear with me 1 second, Akim. Let me throw these gloves on. Hopefully I don't, you know, mess nothing up. Okay. Continuing the lesson. The angel of Salakia. Well, it's starting with scripture. The angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, the Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor, which you can read in Judges chapter 6, verse 12. Because of Israel's disobedience, the Lord sent the Midianites to oppress his people and judge them for their apostasy. The Midianites came from the land east of Jordan and southward into the desert regions. For 7 years, the Israelites suffered greatly at the hands of the Midianites, who came yearly to raid their land and steal their crops. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord for deliverance, he sent them a prophet to remind them of their disobedience. I don't know if I read this already. Bear with me for 1 second, Akim, because, like I say, because of the way this is stopping, I don't know if I've read some of these, you know, things before, and I don't want to be repeating. No, I don't think I read that. Okay. Who came yearly to raid their land and steal their crops. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord for deliverance, he first sent them a prophet to remind them of their disobedience to YAHAWAH, who had brought them to this land, which you can read in Judges 6, verses 7 through 10. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to a man named Gideon. Verse 11. Gideon was to be the judge of the Lord, would Salaki appeared to a man named Gideon. Gideon was to be the judge the Lord would use to deliver his people. So important was his role that his call came by way of this angel. Here, as is often the case in the Old Testament, this title probably refers to the Lord himself, which I don't agree with. The Lord's words must have been striking to Gideon, who was threshing wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Judges 6 and 11. Like His fellow countryman Gideon lived in fear of the armies of Midian as he tried to hide his harvest from them. In spite of the distressing situation for both Gideon and Israel, the angel declared that the Lord was with him. As Gideon's initial response indicates, the Lord's presence was not evident as far as Gideon was concerned. Salakia. The Lord's more probably refers to like his fellow countryman Gideon lived in fear of the armies of Midian, and he tried to hide his harvest from them. In spite of the distressing situation for both Gideon and Israel, the angel declared that the Lord was with him. As Gideon's initial response indicates, the Lord's presence was not in evidence as far as Gideon was concerned. The Lord had not intervened to deliver the people. Gideon made two false assumptions. First, he assumed that the oppression of Israel and the absence of miraculous acts of deliverance meant the Lord had abandoned his people. Second, he seemed to assume Israel was owed the Lord's deliverance in spite of their sin. We need to avoid such thinking ourselves. We cannot expect the Lord's blessings when we fail to follow him. And even if we are following him, we have no guarantee our lives will be easy, which is true. I mean, anybody walking sincerely in his faith understands that. You know what I mean? But like I said, scripture, actually, pays witness too. At the end of the day, the angels love to do the bidding. So when you really in this thing, you got a good chance of, actually stand in without falling out is when you enjoy doing this, no matter what kind of hell you catch. You know what I mean? I've met, and then when you hear your trials and tribulations, and then you hear what other brothers would do, it's like you realize, damn, it ain't just you going through nothing. Some brothers don't even catch the kind of affliction that, you would expect. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard brothers say, shit, if something ain't happening, I'll be worried I'm not doing something. You know what I mean? Like, so, like I said, at the end of the day, just because you doing his work doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Like I said, when you realize that Jeremiah, what he went through, like I said, Jeremiah was doing the will of the Lord and had to, he got beat, he was put in prison, he went into the captivity. I believe he was released, if I'm not mistaken, but he went into captivity when, they actually, because Jeremiah was prophesying during a siege. You get what I'm saying? However, we always can be sure he is present and concerned about us, and he will act in our best interest in his own time and way. The second part of the message must have been equally astonishing to Gideon, for the angel addressed him as mighty man of valor. This title spoke of strength and bravery and is often used in the Old Testament to describe great warriors. Joshua, there's a precept to that, Joshua 8:3, and 2 Kings chapter 5:1, 1 Chronicles chapter 12:21. The title hardly seemed to fit Gideon, who was cowering in fear of the Midianites. Gideon even describes himself as being poor and the least in his father's house. Judges chapter 6, verse 15. I'm pretty sure I read this one already. Here's an important lesson for all of us. YAHAWAH sees us as capable of great things, not because of our abilities, but simply not because of our abilities. See, Salakia, here's an important lesson for all of us. YAHAWAH sees us as capable of great things, not because of our abilities, but simply because he is with us, which I agree with. Like with a little faith, you can move mountains. Gideon recognized his limitations, but not what YAHAWAH could and can do with a man of faith. It is true that Gideon did not have great faith, but he did have faith. The Lord nurtured that faith step by step, so Gideon was willing to step out and lead just 300 men to a great victory over a massive Midianite army. The miraculous deliverance Gideon had longed for finally came, and it came through him, a lowly, very imperfect man who simply acted in faith. When the women's ministry director at Gideon threshed in hiding. Judges 6, 11, and 12. Farmers usually threshed on hilltops so that the wind would blow away the shaft, the useless outer hull of the wheat. But nomadic Midianites have been raiding Israel for 7 years, destroying crops and livestock. So Gideon was threshing in a wine press a series of rock-hewn pits. Somehow his family had managed to raise a crop, and now they were hiding it. While Gideon threshed, he experienced a theophany, a visitation from the pre-incarnate. Well, he experienced a angel. The Lord reassured Gideon that he was with him.